It's Bren with Kindred Acres. It's been a while since I did a harvest picture or video, so I figured today I would do one. I always talk about diversity in the garden and polyculture gardening, and I love to have just a small amount of a big variety of things. And I do that so that our nutritional needs are met, so we have a big wide variety of choice of minerals, of vitamins and nutrients. And today is one of those days where I get to kind of showcase that and what it looks like. It wasn't a massive harvest, but it was a pretty good harvest today. We've got some banana leaves that I've already trimmed down while I was out there because they were, kind of ripping. And you typically you wilt them and then you can work with them a little bit better, but there's a storm coming, so I was in a rush. So I've already processed these. So these will get washed, and then I will lay them flat like they are, wrap them up, and freeze them until we're ready to use them. And we use them to cook foods in, like tinfoil. In place of tinfoil, you can use banana leaves. It adds flavor and nutritional value, and then you can compost it after. So it's way more eco-friendly than using tinfoil. And tinfoil, for some researchers will say that actually adds heavy metals into your food, which you don't really want. So this is a much better alternative. We have some vegetable amaranth. I have a whole bunch here. My table was pretty full, so I left all that in the bag there. And a lot of basil, which I'm making cubes of basil oil with garlic to freeze, and then I'll pop them into storage containers and put them in the freezer for whenever we need them in winter. There's still so much out there. Honestly, I didn't even get to even a quarter of it today. So I'll have a lot of processing to do. We've got some moringa leaves. These are a very high nutrient food. It's like a powerhouse food, so a little goes a long way with this. And we harvest the bottom leaves or fronds or whatever you want to call them every so often, and then we'll dry them, grind them to a powder, and put them into a jar and save for winter use for smoothies. And it's really great for immune boosting. We've got roses that are finally just coming back to life. I had to trim the bushes back, and so they're coming back in now. So we dry those, and we have a little bit of our apothecary garden here. It's a little bit of a mess. I need to work on that. But we've got our dried herbs and all kinds of goodies in there. And so they go into jars there, and we use those for teas. We've got some sweet dumpling squash, some cicada sweet melons. Those are amazing. So yummy. Our first Long Island cheese pumpkin, I'm super excited about that. We have another one about that size and almost ready to harvest. This one, as you can see, I could have waited a little longer. It's still seeping, which means that that was actually still getting sugars and juice and nutritional content from the vine. But the reason I cut it today is because we're expecting several days of heavy rain, and this is pretty good and solid. And I had one actually split, and I didn't want that to happen because the one that split, I didn't catch it in time and bugs got in it. It was no good. So I wanted to get this before this one split because we haven't gotten to taste one yet. So and then we've got some Puerto Rican oregano. We've got some peppers, tomatoes. I get them at first blush. Typically, we had some that were ready. I love to let them get ready on the vine, but we have a little someone that also likes to get them when they're ready on the vine. And so I have to get them before he does. We've got some longevity spinach. We're going to make smoothies today. Whatever we don't use today, we're going to blanch and freeze. We've got a container in the freezer, or we'll put them in containers in the freezer, and we'll have that for winter use. There's still so much out there fresh, so every time we harvest a little for the freezer and a little for fresh use. We've got just a few okra. The new okra plants are actually starting to come up. We've got about 6 or 7 okra plants out there. Not many because I'm not a huge fan of the okra. This variety I actually really like, but I only like it sliced, salted, and dehydrated, and they get nice and crispy, and it takes that slime factor away. And so it's really yummy that way. So next year I might actually do a whole lot more because I did enjoy it that way, and I know how good it is for you. We've got some Mississippi heirloom cowpeas. We've been harvesting these through the summer. We've got a big jar in there, one in the pantry, and these are ones that are drying out from the last harvest that we did. And I just go in here and mix them up every now and then. And those will get jarred when they're done. And this will get hulled and dried and jarred when they're done. And then we also have some German foxtail millet that's just now starting to ready. That'll go to the chickens. Some we'll save for seed for next year. They absolutely love it. And then of course we get the eggs from the chickens, which are very deep in color, high in nutritional value. Our chickens free range some of the time, not all of the time, because they're not so gentle in my garden. When I'm out there, I let them out in free range. When I'm not able to be out there watching them, they're in their big chicken yard. It's massive. It's a very big space for them. They have plenty of room to roam around, and they get tons of food scraps, more than they can eat or process. And so what they do is kick it around and it'll just turn to compost for us. And of course they get supplemental organic green food. So these are really high nutritional content in our eggs, very thick. Those of you who bought eggs from us know they're really hard to crack. They're very thick shells, very deep orange, and flavorful, and they whip up amazing. Great in baking. Anyway, so this is what our harvest table looks like today, and there's actually a lot more out there that needs harvesting, but my table's full, so I'm going to start with what I have right now, work with this before I get myself overwhelmed, and then don't give myself room to move about and work. Plus I've got the kids that are anxious for smoothies and my attention, and it's about to storm. So this is where I stopped today. Oh, and Armenian cucumber. And we also planted a second round of cucumbers, and the plants are actually just flowering, and I see some female flowers on there now, so we're going to start getting some of those cucumber puna Kier. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's a really odd name, but they're absolutely my favorite cucumbers. That's what I've been using to pickle. We've got a whole pantry shelf full of pickles. We've got pickles here. We've got pickles everywhere. I'm trying to find some storage solutions. I brought in that little mini greenhouse that we're not using right now. I took the plastic off of it, and this was what I was using to start seeds. Just a small round of seeds. Obviously, it's not like a massive greenhouse, but just a little small round of seeds in early spring, late winter, early spring to get myself a head start on what needed to go out. But for now, since it's not in use, I'm using it to put my squash that are curing and